just a few things after going through the tape. I think early in the game, we had a little bit of momentum field position-wise. I thought that kind of slipped away towards the end of the second quarter and into the second half. I think fundamentally we've got to do a better job, starting with us as coaches, myself, and the rest of the staff. There's some things that we saw on this tape that were a little different than some of the prior games, and so just some of the base fundamentals of blocking, tackling, securing the football, the proper depth on routes. Those are some things that were apparent. So we'll have a full week schedule here with the Sunday night game to make those corrections. I thought in the first half the clock was an issue. A lot of that's on me getting the play in. They're a team defensively that does a lot, so we're going to try to do a lot at the line of scrimmage with protections. So we had the timeouts, delays, and that's not something that's good, obviously, and it's not something that has been like us. So we've got to clean that up. There were two key situations in that game. Certainly the 3rd and 1, where they call the timeout, and then we run a play on 3rd and 1, and then the 4th down play that gets thrown for a loss. That sequence hurt us, obviously. I thought the sequence at the end of the second quarter, where we were able to create some field position, we had them backed up on the 2-yard line, and then Chris is able to make a big run. That's a pretty big change of field position. I thought in the kicking game, we didn't cover as well. Cribbs had some good returns. We weren't able to get much going. We played Cadet as a kick returner with Darren's absence, and then Lance filled in as the punt returner. I don't know that the opportunities existed so much in the punt return game just based on the type of punts we got, but we didn't win that battle when it was with regards to field position when you look at just measuring our kick return versus theirs. So listen, it's a tough loss, and I said yesterday I thought the Jets deserved to win that game. They played better than we did, and we've got to do a better job coaching, playing. We'll start that this week when the players come in. We've got an important game this week against Dallas, and kind of go from there. Any questions?
Sean, were you able to tell if they got that timeout in?
No, you can't see that on coach's tape, and you certainly wouldn't be. I wouldn't be able to tell on the field. You guys might have been able to see it television-wise, but it's so loud that that's not uncommon. That for a head coach just to go over to the official and quickly call timeout, that can happen, and then a whole play can be run, and so I'm fairly certain that probably did get called, and but I wasn't able to tell during the game or on coach's tape.
How did Velma look when the plays he was in?
He looked okay, rusty, and some things that we've got to get cleaned up, and I'm sure he will.
Sean, can you talk about Sproles and kind of where you guys are with him at this point?
With regards to his health?
Yes, sir.
No. On Wednesday we'll update you.
Okay.
But no, we'll give you an update on Wednesday.
You guys were giving up a pretty high average per carry going into the game, and obviously got hurt on it.
Yeah, the difference.
Is that become a concern? Or?
Well, I think the difference. There's games where you play and you look. Stopping the run's important for us. It starts with that defensively, and we've gotten a lead. Maybe a team's become a little bit more one-dimensional. The thing that's disappointing about yesterday is, we knew getting off the bus, this was a team that was going to run the football, and they knew they were going to run the football. I think everyone at MetLife Stadium knew they were going to run the football, and we weren't able to stop them. So that's frustrating, and we've got to look at why and make those corrections. And then conversely, and I'll say this, we felt going in we were going to throw the ball more just because of the type of defense we were seeing. And actually, when we ran it pretty efficiently, and I didn't call enough runs. I mean, just looking at the tape, I think that now that might have been because they were playing us in more of a pass mode, but our guys, with regards to the run, the opportunities that we gave them, did a pretty good job, and the backs did a pretty good job, and that's something that is on me.
Along those same lines, Ingram seemed to have a nice
Yeah,
few
both
runs or two.
the opportunities he had, both he and Pierre that way. There weren't many, but yeah.
Was the passing game affected at all by conditions?
I don't think so. I think I would say I didn't feel like the conditions were. I didn't feel like it was that windy. I didn't feel like it was that cold. No, I think I think they did a good job defensively with some hurries and some pressure in Drew's face. We had some tips, some drops. We were sloppy with regards to some of our routes, and I think those things all led to a couple turnovers where balls were deflected, and it just wasn't really clean.
I know it's overly simplistic to say you guys haven't played as well on the road outdoors as indoors, but you don't see
I don't.
any
I mean,
connection.
I think you have to go back and do some research. I mean, away games versus home games. I don't think it's been. Listen, we struggled in '06 in Chicago in some pretty tough conditions, but I think there are other. Well, I mean, I don't view that as a big challenge for us. I thought we've won some pretty good games here in cold weather. We played up in New York, we played in Cincinnati. But again, it's home and away. I didn't think weather was a big issue yesterday. Period. Just being on the field, I thought the temperatures were great. The sun was out a little bit, and more importantly, there wasn't much wind, and so aside from it just being outside on the road, I think it was pretty clean.
Sean, I mean, there have been times this season where the offense hasn't been as efficient and as effective at times as it needs to be. And then it seemed like last night it just kind of all snowballed. Was that kind of, was this kind of like something that was maybe on the come a little bit, maybe just a good lesson for these guys?
I don't know that it was. I think yesterday specifically, we didn't play well enough. We played very well in some big spots. We just haven't been as consistent with regards to the running game. We haven't been as consistent, and that's something that we feel like is going to be important throughout this second half of the season. But no, I don't know that yesterday was a culmination of other games. To answer your question.
Does the offensive line play as a whole need to get better in the second?
The offensive line play has got a lot of company with a lot of other groups yesterday. I thought we blocked the run well. I thought it became challenging for them with regards to the type of game we played. So, sure, is that an area that we want to be more consistent in? It is, and yet it would be the same way on the other side of the ball with the defensive line play. In the same way with wide receiver, tight end, defensive backs. And it'd be real hard looking at that tape that I just watched to pull out a position group or omit coaches and specifically say this is the reason they didn't have success in New York. But I know it's Monday, and that's what you guys do.
Speaking of which, to what extent is it fair or unfair to say if just a couple balls that hit guys in the hands or caught instead of tipped or dropped, that game could change a lot?
Well, look, there's 4, 5, 6 plays that you could look at that are significant. I just mentioned the long run -2, where Ivory brings it out and all of a sudden is on our end of the 50. Sure, there's some tips in that game. There's some plays maybe that we have a chance to make a play on. Jabari comes close on like a trap coverage, and so. But that's the game. That's typically what happens after each week. In a win or a loss, you can point to 6 or 7 specific situations that you don't know it at that very moment, but looking back at it, become very pivotal in regards to the outcome of the game. So, those are the things when we kind of talk about the details you're constantly trying to work on so they go in your favor.
The two for Nicktoon in particular, do you think those were really hard plays?
Look, the one on the sideline was a bump and run, kind of like a locked Harvey route. Timing was good on it. I think it got on him pretty quick. Versus bump and run, you might not get the same depth as you would versus off coverage. So it's a half count, and there's a hand on it, and then Cromartie makes a real good play on the sidelines, and that's just a little bit more work, a little bit more timing, and hopefully that ends up being a completion. But that's something though that you make a note and you watch and you think, hey, we got to continue to work on the nuances, the little things, the details within the passing game, within a specific coverage, to clean those things up. So those are plays that are in our favor.
I noticed he played the most snaps of any
Who's
receivers.
that?
Nicktoon, was it because he was the X or because?
It might have been because he was the X. I think then, with Darren being out, we were in. The plan was going to be to play the 4 receivers, Meacham in some personnel groupings, the other 3, Lance, Nick, and Kenny, probably a similar amount of time. So I don't know that his snaps were that much more than Kenny's, for instance. They may have been a little bit because Meacham's playing the Z. But that's kind of, I think, more an end result.
And when you talk about evaluating pass protection, not even just in this Jets game, I think it's always probably hard for us because the Buffalo game is a great example. You see 4 sacks, but Drew also throws 5 touchdown passes, has a clean pocket on 80% of his snaps. In general this year, sacks and pressures seem high, but is pass protection still pretty solid?
I think it has been. I think despite we've been a little bit lopsided. I think last year certainly we were, and it's something we're wanting to emphasize. I think the pass protection becomes more manageable when you're running the football, and so this gets back to me, like in a game like yesterday, of giving those guys a little bit more balance so that you're not sitting on the road in a one-dimensional game. So, look, it's an area that we continue to work on, but again, be hard to point to one position group today on Monday.
Fox and Kubiak, I know you know those guys.
Mm-hmm.
Wonder if you can comment on that personally. And second, just this debate it's sparking about whether coaches work too many hours and stuff like that.
Well, first, with regards to John and Gary, I've texted John and kind of touched base with him. He's a close friend, as close as I have in this business, and a great coach. Gary, the same way. We built a relationship up just through the 7 or 8 years that we practiced with them and played them in the preseason. I caught the highlights of last night, and hope he's doing well. I hope both of them get back out there as soon as they can and when they can. And certainly there's a demand, and you try to find that balance from a health standpoint. It's a tough one to, because by nature that position, by nature that job, and it's not just in the NFL, it's in college and high school. That job is competitive and gotten probably to those positions because of hard work, and so you're just trying to make sure you have that balance, and that's difficult.
Do you think anything needs to be done in regards to monitoring the health of coaches, or?
Well, I could say a few things I won't. They can't have a union. They can't have, the association is what it is. I don't know that that is something that'll come of it. Maybe it will. Who knows? But I think that oftentimes maybe there's a scare, or oftentimes there's something that might take place, and it can change a little bit of your perspective. I don't know specifically with regards to me the last year and a half coming back and just trying to look at things a little differently, you know, in trying to stay active and trying to eat less or, you know, eat right. You know, those are challenges anytime you're traveling or working late hours. You know, it's hard to eat the right stuff to begin with, and then to do it on a schedule where you're traveling or you're up late is more difficult. So, but I think it's good that it's been brought to the attention, and I think that you know, hopefully John can get back, you know, quickly, and his procedure, if that's what he's having, is successful in the same way with Gary. And I'm I'm not fairly certain as to his condition. Thanks.